Dr Rakib Ehsan. It's great to have you on the programme. My mum will be thrilled. As you know, she absolutely adores you, as do I, and as do all our listeners. Where to begin in the litany of madness going on in the world that I want you to unpick for me? Let's do this one, because we haven't talked about this. Apparently, an NHS trust has issued staff with a wheel of privilege which could help them work out how lucky or marginalised they are. The multicoloured chart forms part of an allyship training module, one of those pukey words, ally, and shows thin, white and comfortably off straight people are classified as being central to the power hub. Well, that's me. I'm not that skinny. Large, dark-skinned people, those in poverty, lesbian and bisexual people are in their outer marginalised zone. Gay men feature alongside those of average body size, lighter skinned, and those struggling financially in the middle. So this is just grotesque, isn't it? What sort of nonsense is this? You could be technically a thin, straight white person who's got a crack addict mother, not a penny to your name, and is going to die next year. I mean, this is just utterly abhorrent.
No, absolutely. And I think, Alex, when you look at these kind of DEI initiatives, very often social class is missing from a lot of these initiatives. And I think that what it really shows is that what I call this unholy trinity of diversity, equality and inclusion, it's really wormed its way into the most critically important spheres of British life. In this case, we're talking about the National Health Service. And I find it absolutely remarkable that these theories of white privilege have spread like wildfire throughout the healthcare sector. I mean, when I've travelled to various parts of the country, some of the most deprived communities, which have very serious problems when it comes to health-related outcomes, are predominantly white British left behind communities, especially in post-industrial areas. So I think that a lot of these DEI initiatives, they are marginalising, but what they really do is ultimately frame disadvantage in very race-based terms, and I think that's a very serious problem, especially in the sphere of healthcare.
But what I don't understand is, in hope this is just a waste of blimmin' money, someone who's being given a £100,000 a year job that shouldn't even exist is just creating something because they're sat in an office, probably sat at home under a slanket 9 to 5 and have to show something for their salary. The risk is, of course, if it's not. And if this is designed to say this person is marginalised and this person's privileged and that's it, you don't go anywhere with it, great. I mean, not great. But imagine if you do something with this. Imagine in an NHS trust you therefore go, well, I'm going to give this person better care or prioritise this person's medical treatment over that person, because if this is supposed to do something, surely that's what it's supposed to do. And that is downright dangerous and verging on evil.
No, absolutely. I think that if it risks fostering differential approaches to patients depending on their racial or ethnic background, that is a very serious problem, though. You don't want to see that in the National Health Service at all. And I think that when it comes to the NHS, you want patients to be treated fairly. You ultimately want to be treated based on their needs, their concerns, and their health-related risks. And I think that when you look at this with this so-called wheel of privilege, I've also come across the web of oppression in the past as well. I think that it really shows that much of this imported from the United States. It has absolutely no place in our National Health Service.
It really doesn't. You just hope that people, as you were saying, are triaged based on medical need.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about non-crime hate incidents. You know, every time something pops up in the newspaper, when the cop shop go and knock on Alison Pearson's door, and I know Alison, she was pretty shaken up by that. It was on Remembrance Sunday, and when, the fuzz turn up and, they're saying, we need to take you down to the police station for questioning. Why? We can't tell you. Who's reported me? We can't tell you. It's pretty frightening, but very often we have a chuckle, don't we? Oh, 6 police officers turned up because some parents were slagging off their school in a WhatsApp group. But it isn't funny. It's actually really quite frightening. It's harrowing. And the Conservatives have turned around and go, we're going to scrap non-crime hate incidents. Well, why didn't you for the past 14 years?
No, absolutely. I think the Conservatives, they love providing their fair share of advice from the opposition benches, but they could have taken a great deal of action during their 14 years of Tory-led rule. I think that what it really shows, I think there's police forces across the country. If you ask the residents in various areas all over modern Britain, that they'll say that, for example, that shoplifting on their high streets, that's been de facto decriminalised. There's no neighbourhood policing at all, especially in town centres. And I think there's also very serious problems in terms of policing responses to neighbourhood crimes such as theft and burglary, and more generally, antisocial behaviour. So I think that the amount of emphasis that we're seeing from police forces on these ultimately non-criminal incidents, I think that it's a fundamental waste of time, energy and resources.
It's not just a waste of time. My worry about this is it's largely used as a weapon by people.
Absolutely.
You, me, nice, normal, compassionate people. We get called all sorts of things online for our political views, I have no doubt. But we don't pick up the phone to the bobbies and go, I don't like the fact that someone called me a Karen or threatened to rape me in my sleep because I, supported Brexit. I just think that person's an a-hole. I'm going to ignore the comment and not give them any sort of oxygen, and sticks and stones don't break my bones. The people who phone up the police and say, I find this hurtful words and dangerous and I feel unsafe, are actually using it as a weapon. They're oppressive, they're bullies, they're the ones who frankly have fascistic tendencies, and the creation of this legislation is giving them a toolkit to terrorise other people. They're not the people being terrorised as far as I'm concerned. Those people are confecting the lot of it. They're actually malevolent.
No, absolutely. I was going to make that point, that this is scarily authoritarian. This isn't about fighting crime at all. This is ultimately clamping down on opinions that others may not like. And I think that is a very serious problem. I think that we have to promote diversity of opinion. That's a cornerstone of our liberal democracy. And I think that when it comes to the public realm, there's been far too much of this. This is ultimately censorship. And some of the incidents, they'd be laughable if they weren't so dangerous, in my view. So I think that what you want to see the police forces doing the bread and butter of actually fighting actual crime. And instead, what we're seeing is ultimately people facing gross forms of authoritarianism, in my view, because they've expressed perfectly legitimate concerns on a variety of issues.
I think the other problem here is a couple of things. On one hand, it's encouraging the infantilization of adults, Be a baby, don't have any backbone, be upset, be hurt, lash back, dob someone in, grass someone up, be mean. It's all like sort of high school playground politics. But at the other hand, what I worry about as well is what it does to the reputation of the police. Because we used to be a society where policemen and women were really respected. I remember one of the best series growing up was The Bill. By and large, people liked the police. The police had authority. They trusted the police. And when you start chipping away at that, when you start undermining law enforcement, you open the door to huge amounts of societal unrest. That really worries me. The police need to get real and start policing properly, don't they?
No, absolutely. And I think that we have this phrase, police community relations. Back in the day, the police used to be seen as part of the community. Now the dynamic is very different indeed. And when you see the police take the kind of actions that we've seen in recent times, it really shows that in some ways people would even be, that you wouldn't blame people for thinking that the police are so bored, or rather not bothered, in terms of addressing actual forms of neighbourhood crime, criminal activities that affect people on a daily basis. So what they're doing instead is ultimately acting as some kind of censorious force, clamping down on opinions which aren't seen to be fashionable. And I think that is a very serious problem that needs to be addressed.
Now, very quickly, because I haven't got long left with you, talk to me about the fact that Yvette Cooper has decided she's now going to publish Migrant Crime League tables. Do you welcome this?
No, absolutely, 100%. I think that it's high time that we publish this kind of data. The data that we have available is generally data which has been obtained through freedom of information requests. What we need official data which is published on the migrant backgrounds of those who commit crimes. And I think that crucially, I think that it will help us, I hope, move towards a stricter form of quantity and quality control when it comes to our immigration system, because that is sorely needed.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Dr Rakib Ehsan, it's always brilliant having you on the programme. Let's catch up again super soon. One of the most wise men, commonsensical in the world. Rakib, before I let you go, what's your Substack, my darling? Because my mum's signed up to you and she says it's brilliant. She gets your Sunday newsletter.
Okay, so my weekly newsletter, you can find it at rakibehsan.com. That's rakibehsan.com.
There you are. If you don't, if you feel you don't not have enough Rakib in your life, get yourself a little bit more. It makes for fantastic reading. Okay, thank you ever so much, Rakib.